I'm fired up that you're here, and we're starting a brand new series called Then God. And if you're new to our church, you need to know this. If you've been around for a while, you know that phrase "Then God" is in the lifeblood of our church. We love life change stories, and for us, a life change story is threefold. I was, then God, now I am. I was lost. I was broken. We were headed for a divorce court. Then God. God did something unbelievable. He showed up in unexpected ways. Now we're healed. We're restored. We've got a marriage better than ever. I was, then God, now I am. And for the next several weeks, we're walking through this idea of then God moments unfolding in people's lives leading up to November 5th. And if you can be here at all on November 5th, I would love for you to. We'll be unveiling our next then God moment here in the life of Mountain Lake Church. Exciting things, we're unfolding things we'd love to do together, things we want to build together. But November 5th, it's a really big Sunday for us, and we just unroll our next then God moment here at this church. And then God moments happen, and if you're a Christian, especially been a Christian for any amount of time, whether you realize it or not, you have had then God moments happen in your life. When you were lost or confused or doubting or anxious or lonely or frustrated, things in your life, you have had God show up in your life. He's had somebody show up. There's a conversation that has happened. There was a door that was opened. There was a wrong door that was closed. Things have happened in your life, and the farther away you get from that moment, you look back and you go, I've seen God show up and do things that only can be described as a then God moment. And if you're not a Christian, you may call it luck or happen chance or just really great fortune. But you're going to see today why we as Christians, as followers of Jesus, believe in something way bigger and much greater than luck or chance, or it just happens to be that way. Now, if you're in business, you will know these as inflection points. So if you run a company, you're in a company, you're in the business world. An inflection point is when something happens in that company. They release a new product. They go into a new territory. They have a merger or acquisition. That company is going along. Then all of a sudden something happens and it changes the course, the trajectory of that company. It's called an inflection point. And here we call it then God moments. We're going along. God shows up in some unique way, some profound way, maybe even just an ordinary way. But then our lives, our relationships, our what's going on in our thoughts is changed forever. And as a follower of Jesus, I've been following Jesus now for 30 years, and I've just seen God do so many unbelievable things. But there was one then God moment in particular that came to my mind, and this then God moment happened about 13 years ago. And 13 years ago, I was single, and I was living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I was working, and my dating life was awful at best, all right? I mean, it was not good at all. I've told you last week, if you're here, I'm naturally shy and introverted, which is tough when you're a preacher. It's brutal when you're trying to date, all right? So that was my world. Dated sort of like, I didn't know what to do. So I went to a Thursday night singles Bible study because I thought maybe God will bring her there. And I had been going for a couple of months, and, it was fine. It was good. And then one Thursday night, this pretty blonde-headed gal floated in on clouds. And angels sang, and every guy in the room noticed her too. And it was there in Fort Worth, and there were former TCU football players, and every guy in the room went over to her and started talking to her. And I'm shy, introverted, awkward, and so I just didn't know. And all these guys, and I thought, man, there's no way in the world that I'll ever have a chance with her. She floated in, she and her roommate, but she kind of stole the show that night. And afterwards, every Thursday night, we'd all go out to eat. And whoever wants, we're going to this restaurant, come join us. And so that night, we went out to eat. I don't know, like 20 or 30 of us are at this long table there. Now, what I lack in being suave and debonair, I make up for in cunning brilliance. I'm sneaky, like real sneaky. And I know these TCU football players, they had like abs upon abs type stuff, and I had love handles that had love handle buddies. So I just thought, you know what? I got this. I figured this out. And so there's this long table, 20 or 30 people there. And, I snuck my way to sit right next to this pretty little girl named Brianna. And she was just as sweet as can be. I was awkward and nervous and didn't know what to say. And we were there for about an hour. And she and her roommate had to get up and leave early. So she goes, well, we got to get up and leave. I was like, oh, okay, kind of that weird nerdy guy. And still am, but she goes, we got to get up and leave. I was like, oh, okay. So I scoot my chair back to stand up to let them out up to the table. Well, right as I pull my chair up to stand up, about that same time, the waiter comes by with the bill for the entire table. And he goes, hey, who should I give the bill to? And when I stand up, Brianna thinks that I'm standing up to take the bill for the entire table. And so she let the waiter know. She goes, oh, he'll take the bill. I may be awkward, but I'm not an idiot. So I looked at her and I looked at the table, and like all 20 people were going, seriously? And I was like, yeah, that's why I stood up. And I took the bill and I looked at it and like had to sit back down. And she realized at that moment that I was not standing up to take the bill, that I was standing up to let her out. And it was the most expensive bill I've ever paid, but worth every single penny. Because 10 months later, we were saying I do. And ever since that moment, for the past 12 years, anytime we're out to eat, she always goes, he'll take the bill. That's her thing. Now, I tell you that because in that moment, God used a really expensive restaurant tab to bring two people to ignite a conversation that 10 months later led to marriage. And I tell you that because then God moments in your life and in my life come in all different shapes and sizes and with different people in different seasons. And whether we realize it or not, then God moments begin to happen in our life. And today we're going to look at a story in the Old Testament of a guy who nearly missed a then God moment happening right in front of him. And a guy named Elisha had to tell him, listen, you need to open up your eyes and look at the then God moment unfolding all around you. If you got a Bible, go ahead and grab it. Go to the Old Testament and go to 2 Kings chapter 6. 2 Kings chapter 6. If you don't have a Bible, they'll put it up on the screens. And it's a fascinating story of a young man that nearly missed this unbelievable then God moment that unfolded all around him. 2 Kings chapter 6, we'll start in verse 8. It says, when the king of Aram, and that's in modern-day Syria, was at war with Israel, he would confer with his officers and say, we will mobilize our forces at such and such a place. But immediately, Elisha, the man of God, would warn the king of Israel, do not go near that place, for the Arameans are planning to mobilize their troops there. So the king of Israel would send word to the place indicated by the man of God. Time and time again, Elisha warned the king so that he would be on alert there. So what happened is the enemy king would try to send troops, and God would tell Elisha, who would tell the king of Israel, hey, don't go to that place. He would warn the king, and so the king of Israel would back away. It would happen over and over again. Verse 11. The king of Aram became very upset over this. He called his officers together and demanded, which of you was the traitor and who has been informing the king of Israel of my plans? It's not us, my lord, the king, one of the officers replied. Elisha, the prophet in Israel, tells the king of Israel, even the words you speak, even in the privacy of your bedroom. And the king goes, oh man. Just kidding. It doesn't say that in the scripture, that last part. You're going, where is that? No. But there's this moment where the king's going, hey, the enemy king's going, go here or go there. God tells Elisha, and Elisha tells the king of Israel, don't go here. And then the enemy king goes, what gives? Which one of you is a traitor? Which one of you is selling me out? And they go, it's Elisha. God speaks to him and lets him know your plans even before they happen. And the king is furious. And look what happens, verse 13. Go and find out where he is, the king commanded, so I can send troops to seize him. And the report came back, Elisha is at Dothan. So one night the king of Aram sent a great army with many chariots and horses to surround the city. When the servant of the man of God got up early the next morning, he went outside. There were troops and horses and chariots everywhere. "Oh, sir, what will we do now?" the young man cried to Elisha. You can imagine being this young man. You wake up and you maybe not even had your first cup of coffee and you walk out and all of a sudden you go, "Man, am I seeing things?" And all of a sudden there's horses and chariots and troops, and you go, oh, you kind of walk back into the tent. You go, "Hey, Elisha, we've got a small little problem on our hands." And look at what Elisha says, verse 16. "Don't be afraid," Elisha told him, "for there are more on our side than on theirs." Now, if you're the servant and you walk out and you see like hundreds of horses and chariots, and then you walk back in, "Hey, Elisha, we got a problem." And Elisha goes, "Hey, don't worry about it. We've got more on our side than on theirs." You're going, "Well, there's 1, 2, and then like 200. Like you're just going, "Elisha, have you bumped your head or something? There's more on our side than on yours." And the servant, I'm sure he's going, "Let's see, I got 1 and I got 2. And Elisha, are you sure about this? I mean, we've been traveling a lot. Is everything okay?" And then look what happens in verse 17. Then Elisha prayed, "Oh Lord, open his eyes and let him see." The Lord opened the young man's eyes, and when he looked up, he saw that the hillside around Elisha was filled with horses and chariots of fire. Now, can you just imagine the change in this young man's emotional state of mind? Right, waking up, walking outside, and all of a sudden you see you're surrounded. You pretty much assume that within a matter of moments, your life is over. You go back to Elisha trying to get some hope, and all Elisha goes, "Don't worry, there's more on our side." And you're going, "Oh my goodness." And then all of a sudden you're going, "I'm not so sure." And Elisha goes, "Lord, please open up his eyes." And he opens up his eyes, and all of a sudden he sees the Lord's army surrounded. And at that moment he goes from certainty of death to seeing that there's hope and there's deliverance because God was there, and there truly was more on their side than on the enemy's side. And here's what I want you to grasp just out of this simple story, and it's then God moments in your life and in mine, they aren't contingent upon your ability to see how they will happen. Then God moments in your life and in mine, they are not contingent upon your ability to see how they will happen, how they will unfold. Just because you can't see how God will deliver, answer, open the door, provide, just because you can't figure it out in your own little mind doesn't mean then God moments won't happen. Now, I've been here for 2 years and I've talked to a lot of you, and what I've realized is that you and I, we're cut from the same cloth. A lot of us are. And that same cloth that we're all cut from is called control freaks. And you and I, we like to control things. And we like for things to line up, and we like for it to go from A to B to C to D. And if it goes from A to D, our minds explode because it's out of our control. And so we have a problem. We go, "God, let me tell you how to fix this problem in my life. God, I've got a question. Let me just tell you how to answer. Let me tell you how to resolve this." And so we like for God to work on our timetable, on the way we think it should unfold, and then it doesn't happen. When things don't work out, we can't see it. It doesn't mean that God is not still working. It does not mean that there are more on our side than on the enemy's. And Elisha just prays, "Lord, please open up his eyes and let him see the truth." And the horses and chariots were there the whole time, even though he couldn't see it. Then God moments are not contingent on your ability or my ability to see how they will happen. Then look what happens. And it gets interesting. Verse 18. As the Aramean army advanced toward him, Elisha prayed, "Oh Lord, please make them blind." So the Lord struck them with blindness as Elisha had asked. So the army advances, and Elisha goes, "Lord, please make them blind." Now, in verse 19, you're going to read it and go, is it okay to chuckle at that? Is verse 19, can we laugh at that? And in verse 19, when you understand it, it's very humorous. You're going to see Elisha, he has a bit of fun with the enemy army in verse 19. We'll read it. It says, "Then Elisha went out and told them, 'You have come the wrong way. This isn't the right city. Follow me, and I will take you to the man you are looking for.' And he led them to the city of Samaria." Now don't miss the humor in this piece. Lord, please open up his eyes. The servant's eyes are open. They're coming. Lord, please blind them. They're blind. And Elisha steps out. Hey, fellas, how you doing? Well, we can't see anything. Don't worry about it. You know, you guys are in the wrong city. We are? Yeah, I know. You guys, don't worry about it. Let me take you to the man that you're looking for. Man, he sounds familiar. Does that voice sound familiar? No. I have a familiar voice, but I'm not the guy you're looking for. Follow me. And he takes them to Samaria, where the king of Israel is. He takes them to where the Israelite army would be. And then look what happens. Verse 20. As soon as they had entered Samaria, Elisha prayed, "Oh Lord, now open their eyes and let them see." So the Lord opened their eyes, and they discovered that they were in the middle of Samaria, and they all went and changed their pants. I mean, don't miss that. I mean, it's funny going, well, Lord, open their eyes. Oh, what? I thought we were going after Elisha. He opens it up, and you got to imagine there's this chaos, and they're seeing, and they're in the middle of this. And then the king of Israel, he gets excited. Look at what he says, verse 21. When the king of Israel saw them, he shouted to Elisha, "My father, should I kill them? Should I kill them?" Going, look, we got them. We got them. They're right here. They're kind of dazed. They don't know. Can we kill them? Can we kill them? Look at what Elisha says, verse 22. Of course not. Elisha replied, "Did we kill prisoners of war? Give them food and drink and send them home again to their master." So the king made a great feast for them and then sent them home to their master. And after that, the Aramean raiders stayed away from the land of Israel. And there's two things I would love for you to work into your prayer life this week. Two thoughts, two prayers. Because Elisha's here in the middle, and he asked the Lord through prayer to open up the eyes of his servant. And then through prayer, he opens up to close the eyes and then opens up the eyes. And then he shows compassion to the Aramean army. And so two prayers when it comes to this idea of then God moments, not only in your life, but in the lives of others. The first prayer is this, and this: Lord, open my eyes to the then God moments in my life. Lord, open my eyes to the then God moments in my life. And prayer number two is, Lord, open my heart to then God moments in their life. Lord, open my eyes to what's going on in my life. And Lord, open my heart. Lord, give me a heart of compassion to then God moments happening for them. And so let's talk about that prayer for the first prayer. Lord, open my eyes to then God moments in my life. Now, if you've been a Christian for any amount of time, my guess is you've read books, you've listened to podcasts, you've watched preachers on television or YouTube, and you see these people tell stories of God showing up in their life, and these stories happen in a dramatic fashion. Right? It was, man, I was strung out on drugs and I was headed this way, then God showed up and now I'm walking this way and I'm preaching to thousands. Man, we were a day away from divorce court. We hated each other. Then God showed up in a miraculous way. Now we're writing books and giving marriage conferences. And we see that, we go, wow. God shows up in a miraculous way, in these dramatic ways, and we hope and expect that he does the same thing for us. And so we're waiting for this dramatic thing to happen. Lord, show up. Lord, save. Lord, do a miracle. And yes, the Lord can show up in dramatic ways, but may I suggest we begin looking in the daily ways that he shows up. May I suggest that, yes, he can and does often show up in the dramatic ways, but let us not forget the daily things that he does in our life. The conversations, the emails, the phone calls, the text messages, the things that, gosh, this never happens, and it did. May we begin to look for the then God moments happening in our life. When you're on your way to work and you have a blowout on the side of the road and you have to fix it and you're 30 minutes late, and as you're going on your way to work, you come upon a head-on collision. You're going, that could have been me moments earlier. That person that you've been avoiding because you know there's some tension, and all of a sudden you accidentally butt dial them on your phone. And all of a sudden they pick up, hello, and there's that moment where God's going, this is the moment to begin to repair that relationship. See, yes, God does show up in the big, dramatic fashions, but he also shows up in the daily things. When you're afraid, when you're lonely, when you're confused, when you're doubting, begin to pray, Lord, open my eyes to the way you're showing up in my life, to the then God moments that are happening on a daily basis, in the mundane, in the routine. Lord, open my eyes to the doors that you open, to the doors that you close, to those moments that can only be ascribed as moments from God. In Elisha, he reminds the young man in verse 16, says, don't be afraid. He says, for there are more on our side than on theirs. And maybe you just need to hear that there are more on your side than on the enemy's side. Before his eyes were open, he just reminded them, there is a God that is for you, and there's an army of people surrounding this small little army that you think is going to attack you. There are more on your side than on the enemy's side. There is somebody who is for you, who loves you, who cares for you. And Lord, please open my eyes to those moments where I see that unfold in my life. Maybe you just need to be reminded of that simple fact that there is more on your side than on theirs. I have 4 kids, 10 and younger, and they go through seasons. I'm sure if you've had kids or have kids, or where they get afraid of the dark, right? Just moments where, I don't know, they see something on TV or movie. They get nervous and afraid of the dark, and they each have their own room, but our 2 oldest boys, when David gets afraid, he sleeps on the top bunk of his older brother Daniel's room. A few weeks ago, I walk into their room and go to tuck Daniel in, and I see David's head pop over the top bunk. Hey, Dad, what are you doing here? Well, we're kind of afraid. Both of you, yeah, Dad, we're kind of afraid. I just simply asked them, I go, what are you afraid of? And both of them go, bad guys. And so I go, bad guys? And they go, yeah, bad guys. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to use some logic, because that is what you should do with a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. So I go, you're afraid of bad guys, are you? Oh, yeah, Dad, somebody might come into our house. I said, okay, well, let me just kind of spell this out for you. So you're afraid someone's going to come in the house and attack you guys. Oh, yeah. I was like, man, carry some heavy burdens. All right, I said, well, so let me just tell you guys something. I said, do you guys realize that you're on the 2nd floor of the house, right? Well, yeah, I got it. We're on the 2nd floor. I go, you realize that your mom and I sleep on the 1st floor of the house? You get that, don't you? Well, yeah, Dad, we get that. I said, do you realize that the bad guys are going to have to go past our room before they get up to your room? And I said, at that moment, I will proceed to stop the bad guys before they get to your room. Oh. Well, yeah. Well, and then they asked this question, well, what would you do? I just said, I'd fight them. And all of a sudden they go, seriously? Dad, you'd fight them? And I'm so glad they didn't ask how, because I don't know how I would. Politely ask them to leave. I don't know what I'd do. Just, hey, please go. Yeah, I'd fight them. Oh, you'd fight them? Would you really fight? Yes, I'd fight them. I'm going to protect you. Oh, okay. And so the past couple of weeks, they've slept. No big deal. But this week, they were in bed. They've been in bed for 30 minutes. Brie and I are downstairs watching some TV. It's dark outside. And Daniel, my oldest, we hear him yell from his bedroom, Dad, there's a car in the driveway. Get the knives. Knives? Looked at Brianna, did he say knives? Like what knife? It was knives, plural. And I don't have a collection of knives, just so you're aware. It's not like I have this secret hidden stash, and I don't have a skill of using knives. I don't know where knives. Dad, grab the knives. And I looked out there, and it was a car that had gone the wrong way, pulled on our driveway and backed up to head the other way. And I go, son, it's okay. But there was that moment he remembered that Dad was going to fight the bad guys, and he thought Dad needed some knives in order to make that happen. Now, I tell you that because there are more on your side as a follower of Jesus than on their side. There is somebody that will get the knives for you. There is somebody that when you're scared, when you're anxious, when you're lonely, when you're confused, when you're doubting, Lord, open my eyes to the then God moments in my life. And maybe you just need to be reminded that there are more on your side than on theirs. And then the second part of that, Lord, open my heart, or Lord, give me a compassionate, sensitive heart to the then God moments unfolding in their life. See, all too often we get focused on ourselves. Lord, I need you to provide for me. I need you to rescue me. I need you to answer this for me. And those are great things, but don't miss those moments that are unfolding in somebody else's life. The Aramean army were there, and all of a sudden they were now surrounded by the enemy. And the Israel king goes, should we kill him? Should we kill him? And Elisha goes, no. In fact, feed them and give them something to drink and send them back home. Allow your heart to be sensitive and to break and to have compassion for the then God moments unfolding in other people's lives. Now, let me ask you a question. Don't answer it out loud and don't answer it to the person next to you, but just in your own heart and mind. I want you to think about your friends, your close friends, and what happens to them when they get the job, they get the raise, they get the promotion, their company goes public, they get engaged, they lose the weight, they begin dating, their kid gets the scholarship, their kids get into school, their life goes up and your life goes down. Now, you know how to respond publicly. I mean, you're all good social human beings and you go, hey, good for you, I'm glad you got the job, I'm glad you lost the weight, good for you, whatever, I'm glad you got engaged. I'm sure you'll live happily ever after. You say all the right things. But on the inside, again, you may not tell me or even the person next to you, but on the inside, I think it's easy for our heart to fold our arms and go, why not me? Why not me? Why didn't I get the raise? Why didn't I lose the weight? Why didn't I get the promotion? Why didn't I get engaged? Why didn't my kid get into college? Why didn't my kid get the scholarship? Why did it happen to them and not me? Allow your heart to be sensitive and compassionate to open up and say, Lord, open up my eyes to the then God moments that are happening for them. And be sensitive enough to say, you know what, I'm so glad this is happening for you. But on the flip side, you may be the beginning of a then God moment unfolding in their life. Like you may be one conversation or text or email or phone call away from changing the course of another human being's life. Let that sit in for just a second. Because when you realize that, all of a sudden, it takes our human being interaction to a whole new level. Now, when you interact at the grocery store or at the gym or with your kid's teacher, all of a sudden, you may be that conversation, that person that begins to spark a then God moment in their life. And what would that look like if you said, God, give me a heart of compassion, of sensitivity to be open to the then God moments unfolding for them? And let me just speak to all of you grandparents here in the room, all of you grandparents in the room. For whatever reason, you guys came to my mind early this morning, and I just begin to think about grandparents because I've been really blessed to have got to know and spend a lot of time with my 4 grandparents. Grandparents from my dad's side, grandparents from my mom's side. And over the years, 2 of them have passed away, but 2 of them are still alive, and I still talk to them almost every week. And as a grandparent, you have a unique angle in life to be a then God moment to your grandchildren or great-grandchildren. Like I just begin to think about my 4 grandparents, and throughout my growing up, even to today, all 4 of them have been a part of a then God moment for me, have helped shaped me or mold me just by something that they've said or that they have done. And just grandparents have a unique angle to bring then God moments to their grandkids or great-grandkids that honestly parents, teachers, and coaches do not have. As grandparents, let me tell you how grandkids look at you. You're an awesome play toy with an unlimited checkbook. That's how my kids look at my parents. Oh, my goodness. But that being said, you have a unique angle into your grandchild and great-grandchildren's life. Use that to begin to allow then God moments to unfold for them. Lord, give me my eyes to open to see the then God moments unfolding in my life. Give me a heart that breaks for others as the then God moments are unfolding for them. I'll finish with this. I'll tell you a story about a man that when I say his name, all of us know. He's a household name worldwide. But he wasn't that name back in 1949 until something happened, a then God moment unfolded for him. The name is Billy Graham. And you and I all know that he's a worldwide household name. But in 1949, he was not. Until a certain man that they never met or talked said 2 words that forever changed the course of the ministry of Billy Graham. Billy Graham was doing a tent crusade in 1949 in Los Angeles. He'd been preaching and doing evangelism for a few years and was doing well, but not at the magnitude or the level that we all know him today. But in 1949, someone got word of what he was doing. A guy by the name of William Randolph Hearst got word of what Billy Graham was doing. Now, at that time, Hearst was the largest media mogul in the nation. owned tons of newspapers and news outlets and different things going on. He got word of what Billy was doing at the tent revival. And near the end of that revival, Hersh sends 2 words to his network of news reporters and news writers and newspapers, and he says these 2 words that forever changed the course of Billy Graham's life. The 2 words he sent out were this: Puff Graham. Puff Graham, which was code to his guys, meaning make him famous. And that next day, Billy Graham was plastered all over the headlines and radio, and things were going on, and he skyrocketed into the man that we now know, the worldwide name, because of those 2 simple words from a man that Billy would write later he never met or never even spoke to on the phone. You may be 2 words away from speaking it into somebody's life that forever changes the course of their life. That forever changes the course of their marriage, of their school year, of their way they're going in life. You may be 2 words, 2 text messages away from that person looking back and going, this person profoundly shaped me, and I see God's hand in it all. Oh Lord, give us hearts that are compassionate and sensitive enough to the needs around us. Lord, open our eyes to the then God moments unfolding before us. Let me pray for us. With every head bowed and every eye closed. Yeah, as a pastor, I'm fully aware that the needs that come into a room like this are vastly different. Situations of life are vastly different. Some of you are happy and on cloud 9. Some of you are sad and at your lowest of lows. Some of you walk in here confused. Some of you walk in here with great clarity. Some of you walk here on, just elated the way life is going. Some of you are so frustrated. Some of you have more friends than you know what to do with. Others of you come in here lonelier than you've ever felt before. In whichever side of that life spectrum you find yourself on, we can all open our eyes and say, Lord, show me the then God moments that are unfolding in my life. Now, with every head bowed and every eye closed, I'm just going to ask you a very simple question. And it's just a question because I want to pray for you here today. But if you're here today and you're going, you know what, Chris? I need my eyes open to then God moments that are happening in my life. If that's you and I can pray for you here today, would you just do me a quick favor? Just raise your hand up in the air just so I can see it and I can pray for you. If you go, man, I need then God moments. I need to open my eyes. I see hands. And put them down. Father, I pray for those people that raise their hands, God, and just my prayer is that you would give them clarity of vision. God, and that they would see, yes, the dramatic, but really maybe more importantly, the daily things, the conversations, the emails, the phone calls, the text messages, the things that they just happen to do, that they look back and they see your hand in it all. God, speak to their heart of hearts and remind them that there is more on their side than on the enemy's side. Pray that for all of us, God. Give us eyes to see the then God moments happening in our life, and God, give us hearts to feel compassion for the then God moments happening in others. We love you, Jesus, and ask all these things in your precious and holy name.